One more lesson on circles here today. And our last lesson is going to focus on finding the circle center and radius from the equation. So should be fairly straightforward at first. Let's call that mild, and then get a little bit spicier. But first thing we want to take a look at is these two features if we are given an equation in standard form. So we learned earlier how to take features and write an equation in standard form. So we're just going to reverse that process here. And the things we're going to focus on here, because it is in standard form, are these two numbers. And they come in order of x and y. So these two numbers are h and k in our original slide, which means that's the center. And they are opposite. So x plus 2 would mean the center starts at -2. And y minus 3 would mean the center starts at +3. So -2, +3 is where the center of this circle originates at. And then the other thing we're going to look at is 49. The number 49 over on this side here is the radius squared. So to find the radius, I'm going to take the square root of that. And I don't need to worry about the positive and negative version. All I'm going to worry about is just +7. That's going to be the radius of this circle. Okay, so pretty vanilla, pretty mild, I guess, when it's in standard form. When it's not in standard form, when it's in a form like this, here's another equation. This would be something that's an expanded form. So like if we were to take this equation and to square x plus 2, which means we go x plus 2, and then square y minus 3 times y minus 3, bring the 49 over here. Basically take everything and try to solve it for 0. That's a typical thing we might do in algebra. So if we have an equation that's not in standard form, it looks like this. It's a ton harder for us to find these two things, the center and the radius. So we do have 4 steps that we're going to do. Step 1 is we're going to move the constant to the right side. And so this is a constant right here. We then are going to group the x's and y's together. So we're going to group these numbers together and these two numbers here together. We're going to then find 2 constants, so we're going to add 2 numbers to both sides of the equation that create a binomial square. And then the last thing we're going to do is just going to simplify. Now, if we can do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take an equation like this, and it puts it into this form, which allows us to find the center and radius. So I just have 2 examples using this a little bit spicier way, I guess let's call it. Here's our first example here. Let me pull up my screen. And let's go through these steps. It's exciting. So first step right here is what we're going to do is we're going to move the constant to the right side. So we're going to take this number, -9, and we're going to move it over to this side. So if I move it over to that side, let's make my equation right here. If I move it over to that side of the equation, it ends up being +9. And then we're also going to do step 2 here. So step 1 done, check. Step 2, group x's and y's together on the left. Here's what that looks like. So we're going to have x squared. And then the other x on the left-hand side is this -4x. So I'm just going to rearrange the order here a little bit. And then I'm going to leave a little bit of space. What I'm going to do on this side here is I'm going to just put some parentheses around this. And let's do this. I'm going to use just a little more space on my board. And then I'm going to group the y's together. So what are my y's? I got y squared and -12y. So another set of parentheses. Y squared minus 12y. And then in between here, this y squared was a positive, so it's plus. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to step 3, which is find 2 constants that create a binomial square and add those to both sides. So basically what we want to do right here is we want a number and a number, 2 constants that make this polynomial into a binomial square. It's called completing the square. It's actually not super hard to do. You just have to think about this. You take a look at this number right here. Start with this number. You take half of it, and then you take that number and you square it. -2 times -2 is +4. That's the number that you're going to add to both sides. So add it to this side of the equation. It doesn't matter. I'm putting it right here, but this is the left side. And then I add it to the right side of the equation. And then I'm just going to repeat that process here. Start with this number right here, minus 12. Take half of it, minus 6, and then we're going to square it. When we square that right here, that's going to be 36. So this is what step 3 is all about. 2 constant. There's 1, there's 2. And these numbers are found by taking half of this middle value and squaring it. Half of this middle value and squaring it. Add those to both sides. So I added it here and here. And now we're going to simplify. So the right-hand side is fairly straightforward to simplify. It's just some arithmetic. 36 plus 4 is 40 and 49. The other side is a little bit different. Basically, I'm going to factor this. Well, what times what multiplies to be 4 and adds to be minus 4. So this would be x minus 2 times x minus 2. And the same thing here. What times what multiplies to be 36 and adds to be minus 12. Y minus 6. Y minus 6 times y minus 6. Now what I've done here is I've created this and I put this in a form that's usable to us. For me to find the center, I now look right here and here. So the center is 2 and 6, and then the radius is the square root of 49, which is 7. Done deal. Okay, we want to help you through this process. We'll do one more with you, then we'll let you go to work. For those that struggle with this, watch this next one. For those that don't, you're good to go. You can just hop into some of that practice. Okay, so let's move through our steps. Step 1, we're going to move the constant to the right side. So we got this plus 20 right here. We're going to subtract 20 and move it over here. That makes this minus 31. I'm going to rearrange it so I got the x's together. X plus 8x. Leave a little space here. Y squared minus 16y. Leave a little space here. And again, I don't need those parentheses. I don't have to have those there at all. And now I'm going to find my constants, the 2 numbers I'm going to add to both sides. So I'm going to find them here and add them to both sides. All right, so I'm going to take half of 8. And then I'm going to square that. So 16. 16 is the number I want to add to both sides. It's plus 16. I'm going to do the same thing here. Half of that. Square that. 64 is the number I want to add to both sides. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify. So I got a little arithmetic over here. 6 and 4 is 10. 6, 7, it's 80. 80 minus 31. So this side is 49. Over here, this one binomial here is going to be multiplies to be 16, or really I'm just factoring here. Multiplies to be 16, adds to be 8. That's x plus 4, or x plus 4 squared. You guys, it's going to work out like this every time. We're going to get a binomial square because of this blue number I added. And the same thing here. Multiplies to be 64, adds to be minus 16. X minus 8, y minus 8. Add the plus sign. Now I can locate my center. Here and here. Minus 4, positive 8. And my radius, square root of that. Done deal. So we'll practice this a little bit. Practice this process. And that's it. That's a wrap on circles. Until next time, everybody, stay clean, wash your hands, disinfect your phones, and most importantly, be kind.